Step into a realm where reality bends and the impossible becomes routine. In this collection of tales, we explore the thin line between the ordinary and the extraordinary. From whispers in empty rooms to shadows that move on their own, we've gathered stories that challenge the very fabric of what we call normal. Prepare yourself for a journey through the unexplained, the eerie, and the downright chilling. Welcome to a world where every story is a doorway to the unknown. Welcome to a realm where technology and terror intertwine. Tonight, we delve into a tale of curiosity gone awry, where the line between the digital world and the supernatural blurs. Prepare yourselves for a journey into the unknown, where a simple smartphone app becomes a harbinger of doom. Our story begins on a crisp autumn evening at Willow Creek University. The campus buzzes with the energy of young minds, eager to learn and explore. But for one student, this night marks the beginning of a chilling adventure that will test the limits of reality and belief. Meet Sarah, a bright-eyed freshman with a passion for computer science. She's settling into her new life in Oakwood Hall, a sprawling dormitory that houses over 200 students. Sarah's always been fascinated by technology, spending hours tinkering with gadgets and coding apps. Little did she know that her love for all things digital would soon lead her down a dark and twisted path. It all started when Sarah was scrolling through her phone late one night, unable to sleep. As she browsed the App Store, a strange icon caught her eye. It was a simple black background with a red hourglass in the center. The app was called Final Countdown, and its description was vague, promising to reveal the truth about time. Intrigued, Sarah tapped the download button. As the app installed, a chill ran down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. But curiosity got the better of her, and she opened the app. The interface was minimalist, just a list of names and dates. Sarah scrolled through, not recognizing any of the names at first. But then she saw it. Jessica Chen, October 15th. That was her roommate's name, and the date was just 3 days away. Sarah's heart raced. What could this mean? She tried to dismiss it as a coincidence, but a nagging feeling in the pit of her stomach told her otherwise. She closed the app and tried to forget about it, but sleep eluded her that night. The next morning, Sarah woke to find Jessica packing a small bag. "Hey, I'm heading home for the weekend," Jessica explained. "My grandma's not doing well, and the family wants to spend some time with her." Sarah nodded, a sense of unease growing within her. She wanted to warn Jessica to tell her about the app, but how could she explain something she didn't understand herself? Instead, she wished her roommate a safe trip and watched her leave, hoping that the app was wrong. As the days passed, Sarah found herself constantly checking the app. She noticed more names she recognized, fellow students, professors, even the cafeteria staff. Each name had a date next to it, some in the near future, others months or years away. On the morning of October 15th, Sarah's phone buzzed with a news alert. Her heart sank as she read the headline: "Local college student dies in car accident." The article went on to describe how Jessica Chen had been involved in a fatal collision on her way back to campus. Sarah's world spun. The app had been right. But how? And more importantly, what did it mean for all the other names on the list? Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Sarah began to investigate. She started by looking into the app's creator, but found no information online. It was as if the app had appeared out of thin air. As she dug deeper, Sarah noticed strange occurrences around campus. Students whose names appeared on the list would experience near misses or accidents in the days leading up to their listed date. It was as if death was stalking them, waiting for the right moment to strike. Sarah tried to warn her fellow students, but who would believe her? A phone app that predicts death? It sounded crazy, even to her own ears. but she couldn't ignore the mounting evidence. One night, while poring over the app's code, Sarah made a startling discovery. Hidden within the lines of programming was a message. The veil is thin. They are watching. Choose wisely. What did it mean? Who were they? Sarah's mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. She began to see shadows out of the corner of her eye, hear whispers in empty rooms. Was she losing her mind? Or was something sinister at work? As the days turned into weeks, Sarah became obsessed with the app. She started tracking the listed students, trying to prevent the predicted deaths. Sometimes she succeeded, other times she was too late. With each passing day, the weight of her knowledge grew heavier. One evening, as Sarah sat in her dorm room surrounded by notes and theories, her phone buzzed. She looked down to see a new notification from the Final Countdown app. Her blood ran cold as she read the message. Sarah Mitchell. Tomorrow. Panic set in. Sarah's mind raced through all the possibilities. Should she lock herself in her room? Go to the hospital? Tell someone about the app? As she debated her options, a knock at the door made her jump. She opened it to find Professor Harris, her computer science teacher, standing in the hallway. Sarah, he said, his voice grave. We need to talk. The professor led Sarah to his office, a cluttered space filled with books and old computer parts. As they sat down, he fixed her with a piercing gaze. I know about the app, Sarah, and I know what you've been trying to do. Sarah's jaw dropped. How? She managed to stammer. Professor Harris sighed, suddenly looking much older than his years. Because I created it many years ago, and now it's time for you to understand the truth. Over the next hour, the professor revealed a tale that seemed impossible. He spoke of ancient rituals, of deals made with entities beyond human comprehension. The app, he explained, was a window into the fabric of fate itself. But why? Sarah asked, her mind reeling. Why create something so terrible? To save lives, the professor replied, to give people a chance to change their destiny. But it comes at a cost. For every life saved, another must be taken. Balance must be maintained. Sarah felt sick. All those times she'd intervened, thinking she was helping, had she actually been condemning others to die in their place? And now, Professor Harris continued, it's chosen you. The app has selected you as its new keeper. That's what tomorrow's date means. Not your death, but your rebirth. Sarah shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. No, I don't want this. I can't bear this responsibility. The professor's eyes softened with sympathy. I'm sorry, Sarah, but once the app chooses, there's no going back. You'll be given power beyond your wildest dreams, but it comes with a heavy burden. You must guide others, help them understand the delicate balance between life and death. As the full weight of her situation sank in, Sarah felt a strange calm settle over her. She realized that this was bigger than her fears, bigger than her life at college. This was about the very nature of existence itself. What do I need to do? She asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. Professor Harris smiled sadly. Just be ready. When the clock strikes midnight, you'll feel the change. The knowledge will flow into you, and you'll understand your new purpose. As Sarah left the professor's office, the campus seemed different. The students around her, laughing and living their lives, had no idea of the forces at work just beneath the surface of reality. She looked at them with new eyes, knowing that soon she would hold their fates in her hands. That night, as the minutes ticked down to midnight, Sarah sat alone in her room. She thought about the life she was leaving behind, the normal college experience she would never have. But she also felt a growing sense of purpose, a realization that she had been chosen for something greater. As the clock struck 12, Sarah felt a surge of energy course through her body. Images flashed before her eyes, lives lived, deaths averted, the intricate web of fate stretching out before her. In that moment, she understood. She was no longer just Sarah Mitchell, college student. She was now a guardian of the balance, a keeper of life and death. The next morning, students noticed something different about Sarah. She walked with a new confidence, her eyes seeming to hold secrets beyond her years, and in her hand she clutched her phone, the final countdown app glowing with an otherworldly light. As for the students of Willow Creek University, life went on. But now and then, someone would receive a mysterious notification, a warning or a blessing, depending on how you looked at it. And if they were lucky, they might catch a glimpse of Sarah, the girl who seemed to know more than she should, always there in the background, watching, guiding, maintaining the delicate balance between life and death. And so we leave Sarah to her new destiny. Remember, the next time your phone buzzes with an unexpected notification, it might be more than just a random app. It could be a window into the unknown, a glimpse of the forces that shape our very existence. For in this world of technology and mystery, the line between the digital and the supernatural is thinner than we think. Sleep well, and may your own final countdown be far, far away. Step into the shadows of forgotten commerce, where echoes of bustling shoppers have long since faded. Tonight, we venture into a tale of youthful curiosity and ancient malice. 5 friends, seeking thrills, will find more than they bargained for in the hollow halls of a once thriving marketplace. Prepare yourselves for a journey into the heart of darkness, where the line between adventure and terror blurs. Our story begins on a warm summer night in the small town of Millbrook. The air is thick with the scent of freshly cut grass and the promise of mischief. For the teenagers of Millbrook, summer means freedom, and with freedom comes the irresistible urge to push boundaries. Meet our ill-fated explorers. Jake, the self-proclaimed leader of the group. Mia, the skeptical brainiac. Tyler, the adrenaline junkie. Zoe, the artistic dreamer, and Alex, the quiet observer. United by boredom and a thirst for excitement, they've decided to take on the ultimate dare, exploring the abandoned Millbrook Mall. The mall has stood empty for over a decade, its doors chained shut, windows boarded up. Rumors swirl about why it closed so suddenly. Some say it was financial troubles, others whisper about a series of unexplained accidents. But to our young adventurers, it's simply the perfect spot for a late-night thrill. As the clock strikes midnight, the group gathers at the mall's back entrance. Jake, armed with bolt cutters borrowed from his dad's garage, makes quick work of the rusty chain. With a creak that seems to echo through the entire building, the door swings open. "Last chance to back out," Jake says with a grin, his flashlight beam dancing across the faces of his friends. Mia rolls her eyes. We didn't come all this way to chicken out now. One by one, they step into the darkness. The air inside is stale, heavy with dust and the musty smell of decay. Their flashlights cut through the gloom, revealing abandoned storefronts and empty corridors. "This is so cool," Tyler whispers, his voice tinged with excitement. "I bet we're the first people in here in years." But as they venture deeper into the mall, a sense of unease begins to creep over them. Shadows seem to move just out of sight, and the silence is broken by strange creaks and whispers that can't quite be explained away as settling pipes or wind. Zoe, always the sensitive one, is the first to voice her concerns. "Guys, I don't like this. It feels like we're being watched." Alex nods in agreement, his usually calm demeanor visibly shaken. "Maybe we should head back." But Jake, caught up in the thrill of exploration, brushes off their concerns. "Come on, don't be babies. We've barely seen anything yet." As they reach the central atrium, the group stops in awe. A massive skylight looms above them, the glass long since shattered. Moonlight streams in, casting eerie shadows across the cracked tile floor. In the center stands a dried-up fountain, its basin filled with years of debris. "This would make an awesome photo," Zoe says, pulling out her phone. But as she raises it to take a picture, the screen goes black. What the? My battery was full when we left. One by one, the others check their phones, only to find them all dead. A chill runs down their spines as they realize they're cut off from the outside world. Suddenly, a loud bang echoes through the mall. They spin around to see the door they came through slam shut. Tyler races back, yanking on the handle, but it won't budge. "It's locked," he yells, panic rising in his voice. "We're trapped." As the reality of their situation sinks in, the atmosphere in the mall seems to shift. The air grows colder and the shadows deepen. A low, rumbling sound fills the air, like the growl of some massive beast. "What was that?" Mia asks, her skepticism giving way to fear. Before anyone can answer, a figure appears at the far end of the atrium. It's tall, impossibly tall, its form shifting and twisting in ways that defy logic. As it moves towards them, they can make out features that seem to change with each step. One moment a grinning skull, the next a mass of writhing tentacles. "Run!" Jake screams, and the group scatters. They sprint down different corridors, the sound of their pounding footsteps echoing off the walls. But no matter which way they turn, they can't seem to find an exit. It's as if the layout of the mall is constantly changing, trapping them in an ever-shifting maze. Mia finds herself in what was once a bookstore, shelves now bare and covered in cobwebs. As she catches her breath, she notices something strange. The dust on the floor is moving, swirling into patterns. Her eyes widen as she realizes it's forming words. "You shouldn't have come." Meanwhile, Tyler has ended up in the old food court. The tables and chairs are overturned, creating an obstacle course of debris. As he navigates through, he hears a sound that makes his blood run cold. The cheerful jingle of an ice cream truck, distorted and slowed down to a nightmarish drone. Zoe, trapped in a clothing store, watches in horror as the mannequins begin to move, their plastic limbs creaking as they turn to face her. Their blank faces seem to stare right through her, and she can't shake the feeling that they're silently screaming. Alex finds himself in the security office, surrounded by dead monitors. But as he watches, they flicker to life one by one. Each screen shows a different part of the mall, but what he sees makes no sense. Impossible creatures lurk in corners, walls bleed, and worst of all, he can see his friends, each trapped and terrified. Jake, the last to be separated, ends up back in the central atrium. The fountain has come to life, but instead of water, it's spewing a thick black liquid that smells of rot and decay. The entity that chased them is there, its form now massive, filling the entire space from floor to ceiling. A voice booms through the mall, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Welcome, young ones. It's been so long since I've had visitors." The voice is ancient, dripping with malice. It continues. "You've stumbled into my domain, seeking thrills and excitement. Well, you've found it, but the price of admission is steep." One by one, the entity plucks the teens from their hiding spots, bringing them back to the atrium. They float in the air, held by an invisible force, terrified and helpless. "For years I've been trapped here, feeding on the echoes of human emotion left behind," the voice explains. "But now, with your fear, your terror, I can finally break free. Your youth, your vitality, will be the key to my resurrection." As the entity begins to draw the life force from the teenagers, they struggle against its power. But it seems hopeless. Their strength is fading, and the malevolent presence grows stronger with each passing moment. But then, in their darkest hour, Mia has an epiphany. "Guys," she calls out, her voice weak but determined. "It's feeding on our fear. We have to fight back with positive emotions. Think of happy memories, things that make you feel strong." At first, it seems impossible. How can they think of anything good in this nightmare? But slowly, they begin to focus. Jake remembers the pride he felt when he scored the winning goal in last year's soccer championship. Zoe thinks of the joy she experiences when creating art. Tyler recalls the rush of his first skydiving experience. Alex focuses on the peace he feels when stargazing on clear nights. As they concentrate on these positive thoughts, something incredible happens. The entity's hold on them begins to weaken. It thrashes and howls, its form becoming less stable. "No," it screams. "Your fear is mine. You cannot resist." But the teens press on, drawing strength from each other and their happiest memories. Mia, the last to break free, thinks of the love she feels for her friends, the very people she's fighting alongside now. With a final, ear-splitting shriek, the entity begins to dissolve. The mall shakes violently, dust and debris raining down from above. The teens run for the exit, no longer held back by the shifting layout of the building. They burst out into the cool night air just as the mall collapses behind them, taking the malevolent presence with it. Panting and shaken, they look at each other in disbelief, hardly daring to believe they've survived. As the sun begins to rise, casting a warm glow over the rubble of the mall, the friends sit on the curb, processing what they've been through. "I can't believe we made it," Tyler says, his voice hoarse. Zoe nods, tears in her eyes. "We never would have if we hadn't stuck together." Jake, humbled by the experience, looks at each of his friends in turn. "I'm sorry I got us into this, but I'm glad we were together. You guys, you saved us all." As they sit there watching the authorities arrive to investigate the collapsed building, they know their lives will never be the same. They faced true evil and emerged victorious, but the scars of that night will remain. And so we leave our young heroes to face the dawn of a new day. Remember, the next time you pass an abandoned building, think twice before venturing inside. For in the forgotten places of this world, in the shadows of progress and time, ancient evils may lurk, waiting for unsuspecting souls to stumble into their grasp. But also remember the power of friendship, of positive emotions, and of the human spirit. For even in the darkest of nights, these lights can guide us home. Sleep well, and may your curiosity never lead you into the jaws of malevolence. In the dusty corners of forgotten heirlooms, sometimes we find more than just memories. Tonight, we peer into a tale of inheritance and terror, where the line between reflection and reality blurs. The young woman's curiosity will lead her to confront horrors beyond imagination, all contained within the ornate frame of her grandmother's mirror. Prepare yourselves for a journey that will make you question what truly lies on the other side of the looking glass. Our story begins with Lily Parker, a 22-year-old art student living in a small apartment in the heart of the city. Lily had always been close to her grandmother, Evelyn, a mysterious woman with a penchant for collecting unusual antiques. When Evelyn passed away, Lily was surprised to learn she had inherited her grandmother's prized possession, an ornate, full-length mirror that had been in the family for generations. The mirror arrived on a gloomy Tuesday afternoon, carefully wrapped in layers of bubble wrap and brown paper. As Lily unwrapped it, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and unease. The mirror was beautiful, with an intricately carved wooden frame featuring twisting vines and strange, almost lifelike flowers. But there was something off about it, something Lily couldn't quite put her finger on. She placed the mirror in her bedroom, leaning it against the wall opposite her bed. As she stepped back to admire it, Lily caught a glimpse of her reflection. For a split second, she could have sworn her reflection smiled at her, even though her own face was set in a thoughtful frown. Shaking off the strange feeling, Lily went about her day. But as night fell, things began to change. As she got ready for bed, Lily noticed something odd in the mirror. Instead of reflecting her small, cluttered bedroom, the mirror showed a vast, dimly lit hall. Startled, Lily blinked and rubbed her eyes, but the image remained. Curiosity overcame her fear, and Lily approached the mirror. She reached out, expecting her fingers to meet cool glass, Instead, they passed through as if the mirror were made of water. A chill ran down her spine as she quickly withdrew her hand. That night, Lily tossed and turned, unable to shake the feeling that she was being watched. In her dreams, she wandered through endless corridors, always just out of reach of something lurking in the shadows. The next morning, Lily convinced herself it had all been a strange hallucination, brought on by stress and grief. But as she went about her day, she found her gaze constantly drawn to the mirror. Sometimes, out of the corner of her eye, she'd catch glimpses of movement within its depths. As the days passed, Lily's fascination with the mirror grew. She spent hours staring into it, watching as the scenery on the other side shifted and changed. Sometimes she saw grand ballrooms filled with dancing shadows. Other times she glimpsed dark forests with trees that seemed to whisper and move of their own accord. Lily's friends began to worry. She stopped going to classes, stopped answering her phone. Her roommate, Sarah, tried to talk to her, but Lily brushed off her concerns. "You don't understand," Lily told Sarah, her eyes wild and unfocused. "There's a whole world in there, just waiting to be explored." Sarah, frightened by her friend's obsession, suggested they cover the mirror or move it to storage, but Lily refused, becoming angry at the mere suggestion. One night, unable to resist any longer, Lily decided to step through the mirror. As her foot passed through the glass, she felt a rush of cold air. Taking a deep breath, she pushed forward, emerging on the other side. The world beyond the mirror was both beautiful and terrifying. The sky was a swirling mass of deep purples and blues, with no sun or moon in sight. The ground beneath her feet seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. In the distance, she could see towering structures that defied the laws of physics, twisting and turning in impossible ways. Lily wandered through this strange landscape, marveling at the alien flora that grew in abundance, flowers that glowed with an inner light, trees with leaves that chimed like bells when the wind blew through them. But as beautiful as it all was, there was an underlying sense of wrongness that Lily couldn't shake. As she explored, Lily began to notice things moving in the shadows. Creatures that were just out of sight, their forms shifting and changing every time she tried to get a good look at them. The air grew colder, and an oppressive silence fell over everything. Suddenly, Lily realized she had lost sight of the mirror. Panic set in as she spun around, trying to find her way back. But every direction looked the same, a maze of twisted landscapes and shifting shadows. A voice, low and rumbling, echoed through the air. "Welcome, Lily Parker. We've been waiting for you." Lily froze, her heart pounding in her chest. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice shaking. "We are the Watchers," the voice replied. "We have existed in this realm since before time began, and now you have joined us." As the voice spoke, the shadows around Lily began to coalesce, forming into grotesque, ever-changing shapes. Eyes opened in the darkness, hundreds of them, all fixed on Lily. "Your grandmother knew of our existence," the voice continued. "She was wise enough to resist our call. But you, Lily, you couldn't resist the temptation." Lily's mind raced. Her grandmother had known about this place? Is that why she had left Lily the mirror? As a warning? "What do you want from me?" Lily asked, trying to keep the fear out of her voice. The shadows laughed, a sound that sent chills down Lily's spine. "Want? We want what we've always wanted, a bridge to your world. And you, my dear, have just opened the door." With horror, Lily realized what she had done. By crossing over, she had created a permanent link between her world and this nightmarish dimension. She turned and ran, desperately searching for the mirror, for any way back to her own reality. As she ran, the landscape around her became more twisted and horrifying. The once beautiful flowers now snapped at her heels with razor-sharp teeth. The chiming trees reached out with gnarled branches, trying to ensnare her. And all around, the shadows pursued, their laughter echoing in her ears. Just when Lily thought all hope was lost, she spotted a glimmer in the distance. The mirror! With a burst of energy, she sprinted towards it, the shadows hot on her heels. Lily dove through the mirror, tumbling onto her bedroom floor. She scrambled to her feet, ready to destroy the mirror, to end this nightmare once and for all. But as she turned to face it, she froze in horror. Her own reflection stared back at her, but it wasn't quite right. The eyes were too dark, the smile too wide. And behind her reflection, she could see the shadows pressing against the glass, trying to break through. Lily backed away, her mind reeling. She wasn't in her room at all. She was still in the mirror world, trapped on the other side. And something else, something wearing her face, had taken her place in the real world. The false Lily in the mirror tilted its head, its grin growing impossibly wider. "Thank you for the invitation," it said, its voice a twisted version of Lily's own. "We're going to have so much fun in your world." Lily screamed, pounding on the glass, but it was no use. She watched in helpless horror as her doppelganger turned away from the mirror, ready to step into her life. Back in the real world, Sarah knocked on Lily's door, concerned by the strange noises she had heard. "Lily, are you okay in there?" The door opened, and Lily stepped out, a serene smile on her face. "I'm fine, Sarah. In fact, I've never felt better." Sarah frowned, noticing something off about her friend's demeanor. "Are you sure? You seem different." Lily laughed, a sound that made Sarah's skin crawl. "Oh, Sarah, you have no idea how different things are going to be from now on." As Lily walked past her stunned roommate, Sarah caught a glimpse into the bedroom. For a moment, she thought she saw the real Lily in the mirror, her face contorted in a silent scream. But when she blinked, the image was gone, leaving only her own confused reflection staring back at her. And so, we leave Lily trapped in a world beyond imagination, and her sinister double poised to wreak havoc in our reality. Remember, the next time you gaze into a mirror, take a moment to really look at your reflection. Is it truly you staring back? Or has something else slipped through, wearing your face like a mask? For in this world of reflections and shadows, the line between what's real and what's nightmare can be as thin and fragile as a pane of glass. Sleep well, and may your mirrors always show you nothing more than your true self. Picture, if you will, a small-town diner bathed in the harsh glow of flickering neon. It's a place where coffee is always brewing, and the smell of grease hangs heavy in the air. But on this particular night, as the clock ticks towards the witching hour, something far more sinister than stale pie lurks in the shadows between the booths. Join us as we step into the Moonlight Diner, where a young waitress is about to serve up more than just late-night specials. Meet Jenny, a 22-year-old college student working the graveyard shift to make ends meet. With her blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail and dark circles under her eyes, she's the picture of a hard-working small-town girl. Tonight, like every night, she dons her blue uniform and white apron, ready to face whatever the wee hours might bring. The diner is quiet as Jenny starts her shift at 11 p.m. Old Joe, the cook, nods to her from the kitchen before turning back to his crossword puzzle. The only customer is a truck driver nursing a cup of coffee in the corner booth. Slow night, Jenny thinks to herself as she wipes down the counter. But something in the air feels different. The usual comforting hum of the refrigerator sounds more like a low growl, and the shadows seem to stretch a little longer across the checkered floor. Just as the clock strikes midnight, the bell above the door chimes. Jenny looks up to see a man in a crisp black suit enter. His face is hidden beneath the brim of a fedora, but Jenny can feel his eyes on her as he slides into a booth. "Coffee, black," he says, his voice like gravel. As Jenny pours his drink, she notices his hands. They're unnaturally pale, with long, tapered fingers that end in sharp, dark nails. Trying to shake off her unease, Jenny returns to the counter. But she can't help glancing at the man every few minutes. Each time she looks, he seems to be sitting differently, his body contorted at impossible angles. The truck driver leaves, tipping his hat to Jenny on the way out. Now it's just her, old Joe, and the strange man in the suit. At 1 a.m. the bell chimes again. This time, a woman enters. She's beautiful, with long red hair and a green dress that seems to shimmer as she moves. But her eyes... Jenny has to suppress a shudder when she sees them. They're completely black, like pools of oil. The woman sits at the counter, flashing Jenny a smile that's all teeth. "I'll have whatever's fresh," she purrs. Jenny fumbles with her notepad. "We have apple pie that just came out of the oven," she offers. The woman's smile widens impossibly. "Perfect." As Jenny serves the pie, she notices the woman's nails. They're long and sharp, painted a deep red that looks disturbingly like fresh blood. The night wears on, and more unusual customers arrive. A pair of twins with matching silver hair and blank white eyes. An elderly man whose skin seems to ripple and shift when Jenny's not looking directly at him. A young boy who floats an inch above his seat, giggling at jokes only he can hear. With each new arrival, the atmosphere in the diner grows heavier. The air feels thick, making it hard for Jenny to breathe. The lights flicker more frequently, and strange shadows dance across the walls. At 3 a.m., Jenny retreats to the kitchen, her hands shaking as she pours herself a cup of coffee. "You okay, kid?" Old Joe asks, concern etching his weathered face. Jenny nods, not trusting her voice. She wants to tell him about the strange customers, about the feeling of dread that settled in her stomach. But how can she explain something she doesn't understand herself? As she turns to head back to the dining area, Old Joe grabs her arm. "Be careful out there," he says, his voice low and urgent. "Night like this, anything can happen." Jenny's about to ask what he means when a crash from the dining room makes them both jump. She rushes out to find the man in the suit standing by his table, coffee spilled across the floor. "My apologies," he says, but there's no remorse in his voice. As Jenny kneels to clean up the mess, she feels his cold breath on her neck. "Tell me, Jenny," he whispers, "do you believe in monsters?" Jenny freezes, her heart pounding. How does he know her name? She never introduced herself. Before she can respond, the woman in green calls out from the counter. "Oh, don't scare the poor thing," she says, but her laugh is cruel. "We're just here for a bite." The other customers join in the laughter, a cacophony of inhuman sounds that make Jenny's skin crawl. She stands, backing away slowly. I think we're closing early tonight," she stammers. The boy who was floating earlier appears in front of her, his feet now firmly on the ground. "But we're so hungry," he says, his voice echoing strangely. "And you look so... delicious." Jenny turns to run, but finds her path blocked by the twins. Their blank eyes now glow with an eerie light, and their mouths are open far wider than should be possible, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "What are you?" Jenny whispers, terror gripping her heart. The man in the suit steps forward, removing his hat to reveal a face that's more shadow than substance. "We are the things that lurk in the dark," he says. "The nightmares that haunt the edges of your world. And tonight, my dear, we feast." As the creatures close in, Jenny's mind races. She thinks of all the horror movies she's watched, all the stories she's read. There has to be a way out of this. Suddenly, she remembers something her grandmother once told her. "Evil can't cross a line of salt," the old woman had said. "It's an ancient protection." With a burst of adrenaline, Jenny dives behind the counter. She grabs the large container of salt they use for the fryer and starts pouring it in a circle around herself. The creatures hiss and snarl as they approach, but they can't seem to cross the salt line. Jenny's heart pounds as she watches them prowl around the edge of her makeshift barrier. "Clever girl," the woman in green spits. "But how long do you think you can stay in there? The sun will rise eventually and we'll be gone. But we'll be back tomorrow night, and the night after that." You can't hide forever. Jenny's mind races. She needs help, needs to find a way to banish these creatures for good. But who would believe her? Just then, she hears a familiar voice. That's enough. Old Joe emerges from the kitchen, not the feeble old cook anymore. He stands tall, his eyes blazing with an inner light. In his hands, he holds an ancient-looking book. You are not welcome here, he intones, his voice resonating with power. By the old laws, I banish you. Return to the shadows from whence you came. The creatures shriek and writhe as old Joe begins to chant in a language Jenny doesn't understand. The air crackles with energy, and a wind whips through the diner, though all the windows are closed. One by one, the creatures begin to fade. The twins dissolve into mist. The floating boy pops like a bubble. The woman in green melts into a puddle of sickly slime that evaporates in seconds. The man in the suit is the last to go. He fixes Jenny with a final, chilling stare. This isn't over, he growls before vanishing in a puff of black smoke. As quickly as it began, it's over. The diner is quiet once more, with only the hum of the refrigerator breaking the silence. Jenny steps out from behind the counter on shaky legs. Joe, she says, her voice barely a whisper. What? What just happened? Old Joe sighs, suddenly looking every bit his age again. I'm sorry, Jenny. I should have told you sooner. This diner, it's not just a diner. It's a waypoint between worlds. Most nights, it's just us and a few tired truckers. But sometimes, on nights when the veil is thin, other things find their way through. Jenny's mind reels as she tries to process this information. So you're... what? Some kind of guardian? Joe nods. Been watching over this place for longer than I care to remember. Usually they don't cause trouble. But tonight, he shakes his head. I'm sorry you had to see that. As the first rays of sunlight begin to peek through the windows, Jenny and Joe set about cleaning up the diner. They don't speak much, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, as Jenny's shift comes to an end, she turns to Joe. I quit, she says, but there's no anger in her voice, just determination. But not because I'm scared. I want you to teach me. I want to learn how to protect this place, how to fight those things. Joe looks at her for a long moment, then smiles. You've got guts, kid. All right, lesson 1 starts tomorrow night. Be here at midnight and bring your own salt. And so we leave Jenny at the dawn of a new day and the beginning of a strange new chapter in her life. Remember, the next time you find yourself in a late-night diner, take a good look at your fellow patrons. Are they simply weary travelers seeking a hot meal? Or something far more sinister? For in this world of shadows and secrets, the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary is often as thin as a menu page. Sleep well, and may your late-night snacks be free from otherworldly interference. Imagine, if you will, a world where the line between fact and fiction blurs, where the pursuit of truth can lead one into the depths of darkness. Tonight, we delve into the story of a podcaster whose quest for answers will take her to the edge of sanity and beyond. Prepare yourselves for a tale that challenges the very fabric of reality, where the search for a killer uncovers something far more sinister lurking in the shadows. Meet Samantha Cole, host of the popular true crime podcast Unsolved Whispers. At 28, she's made a name for herself by digging into cold cases, giving voice to forgotten victims. With her sharp mind and relentless determination, Samantha has become a rising star in the world of true crime media. Our story begins on a chilly October evening. Samantha sits in her small home studio, recording the intro for her latest episode. The case, the mysterious disappearance of teenager Emily Watson from the small town of Millbrook 15 years ago. Welcome back, truth seekers, Samantha says into her microphone, her voice smooth and engaging. Today, we're diving into a case that has baffled investigators for over a decade. What happened to Emily Watson on that fateful night in Millbrook? Stay tuned as we unravel the clues. As Samantha wraps up her recording session, she notices a new email in her inbox. The subject line reads, "I know what happened to Emily." Her heart races as she opens the message. The email is brief, containing only an address in Millbrook and the words, "If you want the truth, come alone. Midnight, 3 days from now." Samantha hesitates. She's received tips before, but something about this feels different. Dangerous, even. But the promise of breaking open a cold case is too tempting to resist. 3 nights later, Samantha finds herself driving down a lonely country road towards Millbrook. The moon hangs low in the sky, casting eerie shadows across the landscape. As she approaches the given address, her GPS leads her to an old abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of town. Checking her watch, Samantha sees it's 11:55 p.m. She takes a deep breath, grabs her recorder, and steps out of the car. The old farmhouse looms before her, its windows dark and empty like hollow eyes. As the clock strikes midnight, the front door creaks open. Samantha jumps, her heart pounding. A figure emerges from the darkness, an old woman, her face lined with age and secrets. "You came," the woman says, her voice barely above a whisper. "Good. There's much to tell and little time." Samantha follows the woman into the house, her journalistic instincts overriding her fear. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of herbs and candle wax. The old woman leads her to a room where a single candle flickers on a table covered in strange symbols. "My name is Margaret," the old woman says, settling into a chair. "I've been waiting for someone like you, someone who might believe." Samantha sets up her recorder. "Believe what exactly?" Margaret's eyes gleam in the candlelight. "That what happened to Emily Watson wasn't just a crime. It was a sacrifice." Over the next hour, Margaret weaves a tale that chills Samantha to her core. She speaks of a secret society in Millbrook, one that has existed for centuries. This group, she claims, practices ancient rituals to maintain their power and wealth. Every 15 years, Margaret explains, they require a sacrifice, a young, innocent soul to feed their dark god. Samantha listens, torn between skepticism and a growing sense of dread. It sounds impossible, like something out of a horror movie, but the details Margaret provides, dates, names, locations, all line up with her research. As Margaret concludes her story, she fixes Samantha with a piercing gaze. "They'll come for another soon. The cycle is nearly complete. You must stop them." Samantha leaves the farmhouse with her head spinning. Part of her wants to dismiss it all as the ramblings of a crazy old woman, but she can't shake the feeling that there's truth hidden in Margaret's words. Over the next few weeks, Samantha dives deeper into her investigation. She uncovers old town records that hint at a pattern of disappearances dating back centuries. Always a teenager, always every 15 years. As she works, strange things begin to happen. She feels watched wherever she goes. Shadows seem to move at the corner of her vision. One night, she wakes to find strange symbols carved into her bedroom door. The same symbols she saw in Margaret's house. Despite her growing fear, Samantha presses on. She can't let another innocent person fall victim to whatever is happening in Millbrook. Her podcast becomes a chronicle of her investigation, each episode delving deeper into the town's dark history. Listeners are captivated. Samantha's audience grows, hanging on her every word. But as her popularity increases, so does the danger. One evening, as Samantha is walking to her car after a late-night research session at the local library, she's approached by a man in a dark suit. His face is hidden in shadow, but his voice sends chills down her spine. "You're meddling in things you don't understand, Miss Cole," he says. "For your own safety, I suggest you drop this investigation." Samantha stands her ground. "Are you threatening me?" The man chuckles, a sound devoid of humor. "Consider it a friendly warning. Some secrets are meant to stay buried." As he walks away, Samantha notices a strange pin on his lapel, a symbol she recognizes from her research. a serpent devouring its own tail. The encounter only fuels Samantha's determination. She redoubles her efforts, working around the clock to piece together the puzzle. With each discovery, the story becomes clearer and more terrifying. The society Margaret spoke of is real. They call themselves the Order of the Eternal Serpent. Their influence runs deep in Millbrook, reaching into local government, law enforcement, even the school board. As Samantha digs deeper, she uncovers evidence of dark rituals performed in secret locations around town. Old photos show prominent citizens participating in robed ceremonies. Financial records reveal large sums of money changing hands just before each disappearance. But the most chilling discovery comes when Samantha manages to track down Emily Watson's diary. Hidden in its pages, she finds a series of entries detailing strange dreams and visions in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Emily wrote of a dark figure that visited her in her sleep, promising her power beyond imagination if she would only give herself to the cause. The final entry, dated the day of her disappearance, simply reads, "I can't fight it anymore. I'm sorry." As the 15th anniversary of Emily's disappearance approaches, Samantha realizes she's running out of time. The Order will be looking for their next victim soon. She needs to expose them before another innocent life is lost. Samantha decides to use her podcast as a weapon. In a series of explosive episodes, she lays out all the evidence she's gathered. Names are named. Secrets are exposed. She calls on her listeners to spread the word, to shine a light on the darkness that has plagued Millbrook for so long. The response is overwhelming. Samantha's revelations go viral. National media picks up the story. Authorities from outside Millbrook launch investigations. But as the walls close in around the Order, Samantha finds herself in more danger than ever. Strange accidents begin to plague her. Her brakes fail while driving, a fire breaks out in her apartment, her computer is hacked, and all her files deleted. Then, just days before the anniversary of Emily's disappearance, Samantha receives another anonymous email. This one contains only an image, a photo of her sleeping in her bed, taken from inside her room. Below the photo are the words, "You can't stop what's coming." Terrified but undeterred, Samantha makes one last podcast episode. In it, she reveals everything, including the threats against her life. "If anything happens to me," she tells her listeners, "you'll know why. Don't let them bury the truth." On the night of the anniversary, Samantha arms herself with a camera and her recorder. She's traced the Order's activities to an old warehouse on the edge of town. Tonight, she'll either expose them once and for all, or become their next victim. As she approaches the warehouse, Samantha can hear chanting from inside. Her heart pounds as she slips through a side door, camera at the ready. What she sees inside will haunt her for the rest of her days. Robed figures stand in a circle around a strange altar. Upon it lies a young girl, no older than Emily was. The chanting grows louder as one figure raises a gleaming dagger. Samantha's finger hovers over the camera's record button. This is it, the evidence she needs to bring down the Order once and for all. But as she's about to press record, a hand clamps down on her shoulder. She turns to find herself face to face with the man in the dark suit. But now, in the flickering torchlight, she can see his face clearly. It's a face she knows well, the face of Millbrook's beloved mayor. "You should have heeded my warning, Miss Cole," he says, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "Now, I'm afraid, you'll have to join us." As the robed figures turn towards her, their eyes glowing with the same eerie light, Samantha realizes the truth. The Order of the Eternal Serpent is more than just a secret society. It's something far older, far more terrible. And now, she's about to become a part of it. And so we leave Samantha on the precipice of a truth far darker than she ever imagined. Remember, the next time you hear a tale of unsolved mysteries, consider carefully how far you're willing to go for the truth. For in this world of secrets and shadows, some questions are better left unanswered, some doors better left unopened. Sleep well, and may your pursuit of knowledge never lead you into the jaws of ancient evil. We hope you enjoyed this chilling tale. If it sent shivers down your spine, give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. What was your favorite part? Don't forget to subscribe for more spine-tingling stories and hit that notification bell so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky and remember, sometimes the darkest shadows hide the most terrifying secret.